You are a farmer, a blacksmith, a candle maker. Your world is carved from soil and sweat. Your hands are calloused from work, not war. Your loyalty is to your family, your community, your land, not to a crown an ocean away. For 10 long years, you have argued with that crown. You have protested its taxes. You have decried its tyranny. You have shouted your grievances across the sea, hoping someone would listen. But tonight, the argument ends. Tonight, the shouting is over. Because a storm is coming. A storm you cannot yet see, but you can feel it in the cold of the Massachusetts night. While you hold your breath, miles away in the occupied city of Boston, the king's answer to your defiance is taking shape. Under the silent gaze of the Old North Church, 700 of the world's most disciplined soldiers assemble. They do not move with the thunder of drums or the call of trumpets. They move as ghosts in the night, a river of crimson and steel flowing through the cobblestone veins of the city. Their orders, delivered by General Gage, are simple and brutal. First, march 18 miles inland to the town of Concord and seize the Colonial arsenal. Their gunpowder, their cannons, their very means of defiance. Second, find and arrest the rebellion's loudest voices, the men branded as traitors, Samuel Adams and John Hancock. The strategy is clear. Cut the head off the serpent of rebellion before it can even strike. To these soldiers, this is not war. It is pest control. A simple show of force to remind a stubborn colony of its place in the world's greatest empire. They believe they march into a sleeping countryside, against a militia of untrained farmers who will scatter at the first sight of their bayonets. They believe their discipline is invincible. But every heavy, rhythmic step they take on that dirt road is an echo in a land that is wide awake and waiting. But the empire's secrets could not be kept in the shadows for long. The night had eyes. In the heart of Boston, a network of patriots watched every move. Their leader, Dr. Joseph Warren, knew the moment had come. He set in motion a plan born of desperation and courage. The signal was lit. 2 lanterns hanging in the belfry of the Old North Church. 2 sparks of defiance against the infinite dark, meaning the British were coming by sea. The warning was unleashed. 2 men, Paul Revere and William Dawes, became the arteries of the rebellion. They rode into the darkness on separate paths, each a human alarm bell on a collision course with destiny. Their hoofbeats were the first pulse of a revolution. Through Medford, through Arlington, through every sleeping town, Revere's voice cut through the silence. The regulars are coming out. This was not a cry of panic. It was a call to arms, a whisper that was about to become a roar. And as the riders thundered on, the land itself began to wake. Lights flickered to life in one farmhouse, then another, then a dozen more. The blacksmith's hammer fell silent, his new purpose found. The farmer left his plow in the field, his new harvest to be one of liberty or death. Church bells began to toll, not for prayer, but for war. The message was passed from rider to rider, from town to town, spreading like wildfire across the Massachusetts countryside. The empire believed it was marching on a single cache of weapons. They failed to understand that in this new land, every man was a weapon. And on a small town green, 77 of them were preparing to meet them. Dawn breaks on April 19th. It is a cold, unforgiving morning. On the central green of Lexington, you stand shivering, less from the chill and more from the anticipation. You are 77 men, farmers, fathers, sons. Your breaths form clouds in the frigid air. You are not an army. You are an argument made flesh. Your commander, Captain John Parker, is no stranger to war. He has seen its horrors before. He looks at the faces of his neighbors, some barely old enough to be called men. He knows this is not a battle to be won. This is a line to be drawn, a principle to be defended. Then you hear it. a distant rhythmic drumming that grows steadily louder, a unified metallic tramp of hundreds of feet. Out of the morning mist they appear, a sea of crimson coats, a forest of gleaming bayonets. The grenadiers and light infantry of the British Empire, moving as one unstoppable machine. The contrast is terrifying. Your small, ragged line of farmers against the flawless, disciplined might of the King's army. A British major, a man named John Pitcairn, rides forward. His voice booms across the green, filled with the arrogance of an empire that has never known defeat in a place like this. "Disperse, ye rebels! Lay down your arms and disperse. It is a command, not a negotiation. The final word in an argument you are about to lose." Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence hangs over the green. Seconds feel like hours. Captain Parker's words echo in your mind. Don't fire unless fired upon. You see the faces of your neighbors. You see the cold steel of the British bayonets. This is the moment where history holds its breath. And then, a shot rings out. History will never know who fired it. An American patriot, a nervous British soldier, it doesn't matter. In that single deafening crack, the world was forever changed. Protest became treason, an argument became a war. The British line erupts in a volley of disciplined fire. A wall of lead and smoke tears through your ranks. It is not a battle, it is a slaughter, over in minutes. 8 of your neighbors lie dead on the green, the first martyrs of a cause that doesn't yet have a name. The Empire has drawn first blood, and its army marches on to Concord, confident the rebellion is already over. But the day has just begun. Victory is a metallic taste on the morning air. The smoke of Lexington is behind them, and the road to Concord lies open. To the Redcoats, the argument is settled. The rebels have been taught their lesson. Their boots beat a rhythm of arrogance on the hard-packed earth. They are the fist of an empire, and they have just crushed a fly. But as they enter Concord, a strange quiet greets them. The town is eerily still. There are no crowds shouting defiance, no militia forming on the green. The church bell does not ring in welcome, but watches in silence. It is a ghost town. The first prick of doubt enters the minds of the British command. Where is everyone? Ignoring the quiet, they begin their search. They are professionals. They tear through barns, rip up floorboards in the meeting house, and raid the homes of suspected patriots. They search for the great arsenal, the beating heart of the rebellion, but they find almost nothing. A few cannon barrels, too heavy to move quickly, some flour, some musket balls. The prize they marched all night to claim has vanished. The rebels had been warned. The prize was gone, spirited away hours before. In an act of petty frustration, the British soldiers drag what little they found into the town square. They make a bonfire of the wooden cannon carriages, a small, impotent display of their authority. A column of smoke rises into the sky. To the British, it is the last gasp of a failed mission. But to the hundreds of militia gathering on the hills outside of town, it is not a symbol of victory. It is a signal. A signal that the Empire was now burning their homes. And on a small stone bridge to the north of town, they decided to answer. While the British soldiers in Concord searched for phantom weapons, a different kind of force was assembling. On the eastern bank of the North Bridge, a growing tide of men, farmers, shopkeepers, sons, watched the smoke from their burning homes. They were not a professional army, but they were united by a singular purpose: to reclaim their land, their honor, and their future. They were now 400 strong, facing a mere 100 of the Empire's finest. Captain Barrett, one of your own, surveys the scene. He sees the British soldiers at the bridge, a barrier to your return. He knows that for the Empire to retreat, for the people to reclaim their town, that bridge must be crossed. The order is given, not to fire, but to advance. A calculated risk, a show of force, and perhaps the first step towards reclaiming everything. They advance across the field, 100 yards of open ground between them and the bridge. The British soldiers watch them approach. The air crackles with an almost unbearable tension. Will they fire first? Will the argument finally end in blood here on this quiet bridge? The British officers shout orders. They see their own men are outnumbered. The order comes, fire! The first volley rips through the air. But the colonists, though not as well trained, are not as fragile as the Redcoats believed. The militia return fire, not with the precision of regulars, but with the fury of men defending their homes. The fight is short, brutal. The British, realizing they are outmatched and outmaneuvered, break and run. They retreat, leaving the bridge, leaving Concord to the men they had dismissed as mere farmers. At Concord, the king's soldiers have failed. The weapons are gone, the rebels are defiant, and their authority is broken. Lieutenant Colonel Francis Smith, the British commander, now has only one mission: get his men back to the safety of Boston. He gathers his forces, now reinforced to nearly 1,700 strong. It is a long 16-mile march back. They are still the most powerful army on the continent. They believe the worst is over. They were wrong. The worst had just begun, because the alarm bells that rang in the morning were still echoing. From every direction, militia were converging, not in organized regiments, but as individuals and small bands. They were not marching to a battlefield. They were gathering for a hunt. As the British column begins its long march, they step into a trap. Not a trap of trenches and walls, but a trap made of the land itself. A trap 16 miles long. The hunters who marched out of Boston in the dark had now become the prey. The first shot from the trees is not a signal for battle. It is the beginning of a 16-mile symphony of death. It starts with a single shot, a puff of smoke from a stone wall 100 yards away. A man in the front rank falls, a silent red flower blooming on his chest. Before the shock can even register, another shot rings out from a treetop, then another from a barn window, then a dozen more. Suddenly, the entire countryside is alive with gunfire. The British return fire with disciplined volleys, but they are shooting at ghosts. For every 1,000 bullets they waste on the trees, a single aimed shot answers back from an unseen enemy. This is not the warfare of Europe's grand fields. There are no lines to charge, no banners to capture. Every tree has become a sniper's nest, every stone wall a fortress, every farmhouse a bastion of rebellion. For the British soldier, the world shrinks to this narrow, muddy road, a corridor of death. They are trained for formations, for charges, for facing their enemy head-on. But how do you fight an enemy you cannot see? How do you charge a foe who is everywhere and nowhere at once? Their discipline, their greatest strength, has become their deadliest weakness. A bright red uniform is not a symbol of power here. It is a target. The officers are targeted first, then the men in the front, then the men in the back. The perfect red line begins to bleed, then break, then shatter. Step by agonizing step, the column stumbles forward, leaving a trail of its dead and dying. The retreat has become a desperate flight for survival, and the hunt is merciless. Discipline, the bedrock of the British Army, evaporates under the relentless fire. Training is forgotten. Formations shatter. Primal fear takes over. The perfect red line is now a fragmented, stumbling serpent of men, desperate to escape an enemy they cannot fight. They are no longer soldiers. They are a mob, fleeing for their lives. In the chaos, the oldest creed of a soldier, leave no man behind, dies on this road. The wounded are left where they fall, their cries for help swallowed by the din of battle. It is every man for himself. The only command they hear is the constant, invisible hiss of musket balls zipping past their ears. The only goal, the next tree, the next bend in the road, anything that offers a moment's respite from the slaughter. Just as their spirit is about to break completely, a vision of hope appears on the road ahead. Reinforcements. A full brigade of 1,000 fresh soldiers under the command of Lord Percy, complete with cannons marching from Boston to save them. For a fleeting moment there is relief, order amidst the chaos. But the fire from the hills does not care for fresh uniforms. The rebels do not fear new numbers. The moment Percy's brigade links with the retreating column, they too are swallowed by the same invisible storm of bullets. The trap did not break. It simply grew wider to accommodate more victims. The reinforcements have not brought salvation. They have only brought more men to die on the road to Boston. And the bloodiest part of the journey is yet to come. As the sun began to set, the survivors finally stumbled under the protective cannons of Boston. The 16-mile ordeal was over. All that remained was to count the cost. 1/4 of the Empire's officer corps on that march was gone. A price unheard of, a cost paid in arrogance and paid in blood. The British survivors were not returning to a safe haven. They were returning to a prison. The news of the Lexington alarm had spread with impossible speed. The fire of rebellion, lit on a small town green, was now an inferno. Within hours, the roads leading to Boston were choked with men. They came from every direction, from every colony. They were no longer just a swarm. They were becoming an army. General Gage, who had sent his men to extinguish a spark, now found himself trapped by a wildfire. The same farmers his men had dismissed as cowards now held the high ground. They had surrounded the city, cutting off the only land route. 16,000 militia had materialized from the forests and fields, their muskets now aimed at the heart of British power in America. The King's army, the most powerful in the world, was now besieged in Boston by its own subjects. The message to London and to the world was brutally clear. This was not a riot to be dispersed. This was an army to be fought. The siege of Boston had begun. The war for independence was no longer a possibility. It was a reality. The shots fired at Lexington echoed all the way to Philadelphia. The time for petitions and arguments was over, shattered by the volley on the green. Words had failed. Now muskets would speak. The Continental Congress, once a body of protesters, now became the government of a war, appointing George Washington to command a Continental Army that did not yet exist. The argument was over. The question was no longer if they would fight, but for what? A simple protest for the rights of Englishmen had now become a struggle for something far greater, something the world had never truly seen. A nation founded on an idea. Look at your hands. Yesterday they held a plow. Today they hold a musket. Yesterday you were a subject of a king. Today you are something new, something undefined. You are the raw, unyielding material from which a nation will be built. The blood spilled on that 16-mile road was not an ending. It was a beginning. It was the first violent strike of a chisel against stone. Because a republic is not born in quiet halls of debate. It is not granted by kings or decreed by empires. It is earned. It is paid for in sacrifice and suffering. It is not forged in the clean fires of a smithy, emerging perfect and polished. Number. A republic is hewn. It is carved out of the raw, stubborn rock of the world with crude tools and relentless will. It is shaped by imperfect men in desperate times. Every battle, every loss, every act of defiance is another strike of the hammer. Every hero's last breath, another chip of stone falling away, revealing the shape of what is to come. The day an argument became a war was the day the carving began. A republic hewn.